Hello, library friends. Carissa here from Hardesty Regional Library and Jenks Library. This week, I will be sharing with you some books that feature fairies and dragons, which is why I have on my Dragon Summer Reading Program shirt today. But let's start with fairies. The first book I have is The Thinking Woman's Guide to Real Magic by Emily Croy Barker. Dumped by her boyfriend, dismissed by her dissertation director, and depressed by her entire existence, graduate student Nora Fisher concludes, "I wish my life was different. I don't care how." While walking in the woods, Nora wanders off the path and into another world where she falls under the spell of the glamorous Alyssa and her son Racklin of the Fate Lauren. Rescued by brooding magician Arundiel, Nora begs him to take her on as his student, aware that magic may be the key to returning home. Though the story starts with a classic fairy tale of unpleasant fairies working their will, it morphs into something deeper and more nuanced when Nora meets the magician Arundiel. Barker weaves together classic fantasy and romantic elements, including shout-outs to Pride and Prejudice and hints of Wuthering Heights, to produce a well-rounded, smooth, and subtle tale. Fans of fantasy, time travel, and alternate reality alike will enjoy this dark fairy tale. Next, I have Little Big by John Crowley. This tells the epic tale of Smoky Barnable, an anonymous young man who meets and falls in love with Daily Alice Drinkwater, and goes to live with her in Edgewood, a place not found on any map. In an impossible mansion full of her relatives who all seem to have ties to another world not far away, Smokey fathers a family and tries to learn what tale he has found himself in and how it is to end. This offbeat, lyrical family saga set in the fairy realm is intricately plotted and imaginative. And the next fairy book I have is a downloadable audio through Overdrive. It is called Wicked Lovely by Melissa Marr. And this is the first book that she wrote. She's now a very popular young adult author. And this is the first in a series of paranormal romance. It's got 4 books in the series altogether. Marr takes the more traditional idea of darkly mischievous fae into the contemporary world. 17-year-old Ashlyn has always seen fairies. She fears their cruelty and wishes she were blind to them as other teens. She has lived by 3 rules to keep her sight hidden from them. Rule number 3, don't stare at invisible fairies. Rule number 2, don't speak to invisible fairies. And rule number 1, don't ever attract their attention. But it's too late. Keenan is the Summer King who has sought his queen for 9 centuries. He's determined that Ashlyn will become the Summer Queen at any cost, regardless of her plans and desires. Suddenly, none of the rules that have kept Ashlyn safe are working anymore, and everything is on the line. Her freedom, her best friend Seth, and her life. Fairy intrigue, mortal love, and the clash of ancient rules and modern expectations swirl together in Marr's stunning 21st century tale of fairy. And now we will move on to dragons. So this first book by Evan Winter, this is his debut novel, and he has always loved fantasy books, but he realized when his son was born that not a lot of the characters looked like him as a person of color. So he decided that while he had time, he would write his own. And this is where we get The Rage of Dragons. This draws on his South African heritage to craft a unique military fantasy. The story begins with a fierce battle between the Chosen, who come across the sea to find a new home, and the Hedini, natives who consider them invaders. Both sides wield magic, and while the Chosen's control of dragons gives them an advantage, it leads to the beginning of a seemingly unending war. Almost 2 centuries later, the conflict continues, but the Chosen have gained territory and established a nation of their caste-driven society. Males from every class aspire to become warriors to defend the nation and serve their queen. All except Tao, a commoner who trains with a noble's son to appease his father, but has no plans to join the military himself. When his father is slain by an uncaring noble, Tao vows to become the greatest warrior the Chosen has ever seen. His ambition is not to fight the Hedeni, but to defy caste expectations, and he is willing to face otherworldly demons to enhance his martial prowess. This fast-paced action will have readers eager to follow Tao into the next book of this captivating epic. The next dragon book is another ebook, and it is, if I can get it to not be so bright, is A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan, and it's still not looking that great, so that's okay. This book is about Lady Isabella Trent. And she has been fascinated by dragons since childhood, and she's devoted her time and considerable energy to the study of natural history, thus defying the convention in the alternate Victorian England society in which she lives. Her intellect attracts the notice of famed explorer Lord Hilford, who invites her to join his expedition in search of rockworms, finally giving Lady Isabella the chance to prove herself. Illustrations enhance this artful combination of fantasy and alternate history with elements of mystery. And the last book that I have for you is The Great China Zoo by Matthew Riley. A group of visitors to a new Chinese zoo, among them an American reptile expert, a New York Times columnist, and an ambassador's aide with a shadowy past, are shocked to learn that the Chinese have discovered a creature that's always been considered mythological. More than that, they've created this zoo to keep the creatures pinned in. No small feat, since the creatures can fly. Naturally, the carefully planned visit goes awry almost immediately, leaving our group of visitors running for their lives, pursued by creatures whose one purpose is to eat them. This entertaining science thriller, reminiscent of Jurassic Park, has plenty of action, a variety of interesting characters, and some villains we can't wait to see get what's coming to them. So those are the fairy and dragon books that I have for you this week. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next week for Book Talk Tuesday. Bye!